Hi, everybody. This is 1,162 days since Richard vanished from the barracks there at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas, and was murdered. Um, I'm very convinced of that. I'm not shy to say it. It's taken over 3 years, and I'm very convinced. We had questions at the very beginning, and let me go on Facebook. A Team Find Richard Halliday member found that today online, our request to get help right from the very beginning because we did not trust that the CID was doing what they were supposed to do. They didn't, did they? They weren't doing what they were supposed to do. And I think that that strengthens our case. And I really thank our team member for pointing that out again to us. I forward it to the people that need to know. Um, we were laughed at for going to the Department of Justice and asking for help at the beginning, saying that the CID had botched this investigation at the very, very beginning and was dealing with us very badly, not truthfully. And now we know that the director of emergency services, the chief of security of Fort Bliss, has even written a letter saying they're working outside. The JAG is working outside of the bounds of the law. We know that that means that Fort Bliss is working outside of the bounds of the law. And we know that because the SOPs are not being followed. SOPs are standard operating procedures. They're not being followed. Our volunteer sons and daughters join and they are put together in a barracks. Okay, now that is really shocking. So many people hear co-ed and they're like, oh, good. No, no, no. In the Army, in the services, it's a minimum 9-to-1 ratio, and many times it's more than that. So you want your daughter in with nine full of vim and vigor, um, 17 to 25-year olds living with them? No, I don't think so. I don't think that that's why you sign your daughter up to join the military so that people could just take numbers and they can either rape them or, uh, you know, play with them. So, no, disrespect the female service members is the name of the game today. And I hear that over and over and over again because the policies are so bad. And then the SOPs for the barracks are not even followed. I mean, they are marketplaces for illegal drugs. They are the hub for sexual assault and rape. You have a 14-year-old girl, and this is what Thomas Kane was saying. They're working outside of the law. They're letting a 14-year-old girl, and this is not an isolated event. There's many more living in the barracks being prostituted out. Um, and when we know the story of that, it can be leave very deep scars, leave very deep scars. And that, when you have a lot of people walking around with scars, mental scars, physical scars, emotional scars, that really hinders progression of a country, the health of a country. And we're told that our government's all about health, right? But they do everything they can to make us sick mentally, emotionally, and physically. And letting the fentanyl come in like they do, letting the crime spread like they do, because when crimes are committed, I know just the other day I was in Dillard's with family and we saw this man, come in and rob the Dillards and run out. I mean, he would have just ran over anybody. He was so desperate. And fortunately, he did not run over anybody. He didn't bump into anybody because he would have hurt somebody. Okay. And just watching it was very emotional. And anybody who has seen that, and I know that there's so many thefts right now, even gang thefts, and that's not healthy for even the people watching. And then, of course, for the economics of our country, it's sure not healthy. And for the people that get injured, it leaves deep scars. So, um, and this is leadership. I'm just making sure that I'm on. Here I am. Oh, I have my display on. Okay, I'll put it on. Okay, I'll turn that down. I am on. Everything's working great. Thank you so much for coming on day 1162. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about the Social Security numbers, of course, Leilani Hart. And why am I talking about Leilani Hart every day? Every day I'm pounding Leilani Hart because she's obstructing our son's case. She's obstructing justice. She is denying due process. And she is a convicted criminal. She's a convicted criminal. And we have found out that she was arrested in November of 2017 on Fort Bliss for assaulting multiple people. Multiple people. This is wow. So we have, let the general know. That is our job as the chief investigators. Team Find Richard Halliday to let everyone know what their job is supposed to be, what they're supposed to do. And if they get a little annoyed, maybe they should just try doing it themselves, right? Do the job that we pay them to do. And so, one of the things, so there's many, many things, and this is very clear. Leilani Hart has written down many times all of the issues as far as her family goes and the crimes goes in this case. I am not making accusations that James Hart is a predator, that he is a pedophile, that he is engaged in incest, that he is raping 7-year-olds in his wife's bedroom, um, or participating in that. I am not saying that he is using Social Security numbers from soldiers, from veterans to commit fraud, to get banking loans and that. I am not saying that James Hart is using his position as IDES Pablo, which is the health board um, for the veterans, uh, disabled veterans benefits, in a crooked way, um, using that for his benefit, and also coaching veterans on how to get higher benefits. I'm not saying that James Hart coached his wife to get 100% disabled. Um, she is 100% disabled. Leilani Hart is 100% disabled, y'all. The hula dancer can't, she's 100% disabled, and it's, I don't know why. I don't know why. I mean, you're a dental hygienist. I don't know how you're 100% disabled. Um, and, because normally when you think of a disabled veteran, you think of someone that has, you know, uh, been close to a bomb, or, been in combat. So I don't think she saw combat. I don't think she saw combat. I'm not saying that he coached her into getting that. I'm not saying that he taught her what she knows. Um, you know, I'm not saying that he bought weapons illegally and that he threatened her with her life, saying, I could just shoot you, and while you're sleeping, it's as easy as that. You never wake up. Um, you know, I'm not saying that he is committing adultery. Um, many times, I'm not saying that, but Leilani Hart is, and she's saying that in affidavits, sworn affidavits. Okay. And, it is bad enough when you look at Leilani Hart's criminal history and realize that they didn't vet, or, who is doing the vetting and what are they vetting for? What are the terms of the vetting, right? Are the terms of the vetting, we want criminals, so they will help us do our criminal syndicate? I mean, is that what they're doing to vet to be in the position of Thomas Kane? Is that what Thomas Kane had to do to get his job? Is that what Ann Ogle had to do to get her job? Is that what the team there in the VA had to do to get their job with James Hart? Because, we still haven't gotten the clarification. We've been even denied, like, it's none of our business if Amber Chase, who has just made Richard's case her business, when I, she made herself part of Richard Halliday's case, and has committed crimes in this case, in my opinion. And so when we get intel that says she is working right there with James Hart in the VA, and that she's very close friends with Jay Paulin, uh, we need some clarification, because that explains a lot of things. And there's conflicts of interest everywhere. Because that team there in the VA is very interesting. Um, Very interesting. I'm not saying that James Hart is having an affair with his co-worker, Lisa Lennon Williams. I'm not saying that, but Leilani did. Leilani did. Leilani's saying all this. And I didn't say that Dallas Hart was taking flying lessons from Dara Sarah West. No, that was Amber Chase. I didn't say that Richard reported several times to the CPS. No, that was Belen. And I didn't say that Richard had sex tapes that he turned in. That was Belen. And, but I did find the connection between Danae and Leilani Hart and Belen. They're connected. And they're connected to Thomas Kane. And they're connected to Ann Ogle. And that's pretty easy to do when you just take a little time out. With all of the social media, it's very easy to do. It's just time consuming. But am I supposed to wait for the CID to tell us about the Hart family? Am I supposed to wait for the CID to tell us our son is a whistleblower? Am I supposed to wait for the CID to tell us that Richard was a CID intern? That he was a Park University student taking classes from these very people? And in classes with these people, and in the internship with these people? And connect the dots? Am I supposed to wait for them? Because they've botched everything. I mean, Leilani Hart was having an extramarital affair with a married man while she's married to a special agent in the CID who has now lost his badge and been removed from the military. In that very um, CID that we are getting intel that Tavita Nusa was assigned to Richard. So there's all of this, okay, so Richard is in the CID internship. He sees and says something, and to the FBI, to the CPS, to CID, and he's assigned to Vita Nusa, and to Vita Nusa is having an extramarital affair with the Leilani Hart, and Richard is reporting, I believe, things on um, several people in his unit, including the platoon leader, including fellow soldiers. And these are all law enforcement, seasoned law enforcement people that he's really pulling the string on. And so, which, and especially with this Social Security number, um, because even Richard's Social Security number has been tampered with and used since he went missing, and not by him. And that's a real serious crime. But I did not bring that up. I didn't even think about it until Leilani Hart had brought it up in her affidavit. You see, when she brings it up, then it's like, oh wow, what's going on with Richard's Social Security number? Are they abusing Richard's Social Security number? And it looks like it. It absolutely looks like it. Would people, do that? Would people commit fraud using other people's Social Security number? Would a platoon leader use other people's military computers to commit crimes? Uh, that would be an easy way to protect yourself, is to use someone else's cat card information. You get on the computer and you can cook the numbers and then commit the weapons and the inventory fraud. Cook the numbers for the ammunition. And you can have yourself a little paycheck illegally by doing this weapons and ammunition and equipment um, trafficking. What is it called? Smuggling. Yeah, smuggling. That's the right word. And your name's not on there because you're using someone else's cat card. I mean, is that possible? That all needs to be investigated because American people are getting taken by the very people they have trusted to defend the Constitution, the rights, the land, and the people, and have entrusted their own sons and daughters that have volunteered. And not only are the sons and daughters coming in and being targeted in these business plans for illegal drugs and alcohol and their sex cults and everything. Um, but the whole of the military is mission is to be a criminal syndicate now, to work for some kind of criminal cabal. And that's not what we entrusted them to do. So there's a lot of retrenching that needs to be done. And so Richard, with that determined look on his face and yesterday's picture, um, He was an aspiring soldier. He wasn't messing around. And I don't think he liked people's Social Security being used. I don't think he liked children being sexually assaulted or used to be, porn stars at early, porn. And I want to make this very clear. I learned this from Kanye West. What is his new name now? Um, but he said something that was just really woke me up. And he said, all pornography is child sex trafficking. All pornography is child sex trafficking. And when you wrap your mind around that, he's right. He's absolutely right. And so I just want to say that I learned that from him, and I'll never think of, I never am interested in pornography, but all pornography is child sex trafficking. And so this child pornography, which is illegal, is just a product of all the pornography. And whatever with the insults, I look at children and I want them to have a nice life. I don't want them to be sex objects. So, yeah. And, Leilani Hart's the one that brought all of that out. She's the one that said it. She's the one that made us aware of the Social Security numbers being abused. And I think that that's really, really important. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is the the ramifications of Richard's whistleblowing. So we have dates of when he was blowing the whistle. And it's very interesting because as this goes on, I'm starting to understand because I never was in the legal world. I never was in the legal world. I'm just a mom. I want to be in the gardening world. I want to be in the sewing world. I want to be in the house, taking care of the household world and the cooking world and baking in the seasons of Christmas and Easter and um, Advent time that's coming up soon and Thanksgiving and, decorating for them and enjoying my grandkids. And this is what I wanted my life to be. God had different plans, right? And He has made Team Farm Richard Halliday advocates for Richard. And in so doing, we have learned how to be investigators, and we've also learned law and how the legal system works and how the criminal mind knows the legal system and they use the legal system. The the law abiding person doesn't really know the legal system, and so they get taken advantage of very easily. And one of the things with Richard is that he was getting into law enforcement. He watched, I don't know, he was very interested in all of that, how the law worked. Um, and so he put in these complaints. And we have from several witnesses that the IG were all over the barracks because of Halliday. Okay, that's not me, that's witnesses. Okay, I just, received the phone call. I just was at the rally and, went on post and talked with people. And the IG were all over the barracks because of Halliday. And we were given reports that there were arrests in July of 2020. Okay, there were arrests in July of 2020. So, that's really interesting. Before then, Richard put in these complaints. And, because things take a long time, right? They take a long time. And in 2019, he absolutely put in complaints. And these criminals, let's just say, let's just put out a scenario. Richard was complaining, and you had his platoon leader that was up to no good, and Richard complained, and his platoon leader, let's just say, his platoon leader had connections even with lawyers, right? With big lawyers that would even be like equal to prosecutors in Patrick Crucia's case, right? I mean, big lawyers. Let's say he had connections with them. And they would say, well, you got a problem here. You've got a whistleblower, and he blew the whistle on you, but you need to discredit him. That's what we need to do. We need to discredit the whistleblower. Voila, the DUI. Okay? I'm just saying, this is just a scenario, y'all. So voila, the DUI. And it's a messy DUI. It's canine cop at midnight, 1:00 in the morning. As soon as lights go on the cop car, the video goes on. There's no video. So were the lights never on? Richard was just stopped in the parking lot. We have two stories: a refuse, and then really not any really different, but it just seems that there's no evidence. We hear a story from Berlin, we would think, okay, there was some evidence. But there was no evidence, was there? No evidence at all. No video, no evidence, nothing. Just a statement by a canine cop. Right? And so, that's not good enough. So on July 9th, but wait a minute, let me back up. Let's back up a little bit. So they do this DUI, and the vultures called Clem Coward and Lieutenant Colonel Roddick, who's part of this group. Roddick is an interesting character. He's connected to the same group with Deborah Sarah West. Okay, they're connected to the same group as Deborah Sarah West. They know each other. Or they're this organization so big that they never run into each other, but they're connected, and in the same they like the same things, I guess, right? They like the same things. So Roddick, Lieutenant Colonel Roddick, and Major General Clem Coward, they get their claws out. They get their claws out, and they go after Richard. While he's never pled guilty, there's no evidence. The case is still ongoing, but they get their claws out and they give Richard a permanent GOMAR and start chaptering at chapter 14. Then that's Clem Coward. And then Roddick gets his claws out and he gives a with Captain Park, right? Um, and puts his claws out and gives Richard a field grade Article 15 with maximum punishment and then some. Okay? Fast forward now, July 9th, 2020, after months of severe and continuous retaliation with the GOMAR, the permanent GOMAR, the chapter in chapter 14, which, you're just bullied continuously, right? 4 months of chaptering. That is very difficult. And then the field grade Article 15 with the 60 days of restriction and the 45 days of extra duty, wearing full battle gear, losing 3 ranks, being bullied because of that. You're the lowest rank. They put him down to the lowest rank. And, making him do the 45 days of extra duty, wearing full battle gear and a mask because it was COVID in May and June in El Paso, Texas, and 50% of his pay for 2 months. So that, after going through all of that, built on the foundation of this DUI while Richard was sitting in a parking lot, the Department of Justice, the Department of Justice says, wait a minute, there's no evidence here. We can't do this. This is an agreement to dismissal. Because so the main thing, because of pre-trial diversion stuff, but the main thing is July 9th was a done deal. It was cooked. Stick a fork in it. It's a done deal. July 9th, 2020, dismissal. Now, what did Major General Clem Coward have to say? What did Lieutenant Colonel Roddick have to say? What did those that Richard turned in and wanted to discredit the whistleblower, the witness? Let's discredit the whistleblower. Let's make him into a criminal, and then we can say he's a criminal. Right? He's a criminal, and we can discredit him and say his witness testimony is not credible, so let's just get rid of him. Let's then I can be innocent or whatever. So that was a way to do it. But guess what? July 9th, 2020, the ground fell from under their feet. And Richard was credible. No criminal record. But what was Clem Coward going to say? What was Lieutenant Colonel Roddick going to say? What was Captain Park going to say? Oh, I'm so sorry, Richard. I'm so sorry that we did that to you. Here's your 3 ranks back plus another one. Maybe we need to give you compensation for your pain and suffering for months of waterless waterboarding, months of a code red waterless waterboarding, continuous and severe retaliation because you were whistleblowing, and we wanted to discredit you. We wanted to show everybody that you were not credible so that we could continue with our criminal activity. I mean, this is a scenario and a half, right? this is a scenario and a half. You might not want to listen because it really, if you're a volunteer son or daughter, or you're a family of a soldier, you don't want to listen to this scenario where they are just that deceptive. And then to bring in a hula dancer, which my daughter is a great hula dancer. This is nothing against hula dancing, right? My daughter is a great hula dancer. I mean, my goodness, um, she is awesome. But and I didn't teach her. We were in Spain. We were in Spain on a family vacation, and it was raining so hard, and so we decided to have a talent contest in our Airbnb. Let's just have a talent contest. And so we were all having fun, and the guys did their talents, and we're laughing. It was hilarious. Um, and we have some real talents. Richard plays the piano, Robert plays the piano, all the kids play the piano. They all know music, they all know how to sing, they all know how to dance. Um, anyway, but it was a fun talent show. But here comes Allison, and she puts on some music. She puts on some I think what I know the exact song she puts on. Um oh, it'll come to me. Anyway, and it's a Hawaiian, it's a South Pacific song, and she starts dancing, and everybody stops laughing. You know? They're just in awe. Oh my gosh. Where did you learn how to hula dance? That's what I said. I said, that was so beautiful, Allison. Where did you learn how to hula dance? She goes, YouTube. YouTube. Oh, so, some people just have a lot of talent. So, um, but you can use those talents for evil, to entice, to lure, to make people do things that they would not normally do, and then use it against them and harass them. Absolutely. And obstruct the investigation of a missing soldier's case because, I'm trying to figure out, and I think I know, why Leilani Hart's file is part of our son's case. Why is she all over Richard Halliday's case? She's all over it. Why? I didn't want her to be all over Richard Halliday's case. She's all over Richard Halliday's case. And, I'm just thinking, okay, it has to be because of the platoon leader. It has to be because of the platoon leader because, she's the one that did all the criminal complaints against her husband. So, all the fraud over there at VA that he is, allegedly committing because, that's what Leilani says with soldier social security numbers and all kinds of things that she has stated and being in, having this extramarital affair over there. This is all what Leilani says. But if it was because Richard was reporting on him, she wouldn't care because she wrote all that in the affidavit, in the sworn testimony, in the sworn criminal complaint. So she wouldn't care. But what if Richard was reporting, blowing the whistle on his platoon leader? Then I think she'd be all over this case. Because, we have a key witness that says she was bragging about being all over this case, about tampering with Richard's file, with, removing video, Video is missing, video is tampered with, there's bodily injury done, bodily harm done, you know, all kinds of, well, I don't want to get it wrong. You'd have to read the witness's statement. Okay, so don't take my word for it because I'm just doing everything off the top of my head. But all I know is she had unauthorized access to Richard's file and she was tampering with it. So you can read the account, the CID and the FBI report that went out to everybody on your own. Um, there was another point that I had to correct from yesterday because I was thinking about it and I was like, oh my gosh, I I read that in the article from Kucherga and I need to correct it. Leilani Hart never got close to even being a bailiff. Okay? Leilani Hart never got close to even being a bailiff. She's 100% disabled. She's a convicted criminal. Okay? And how she got to thinking, why was she thinking that she could wear a badge? Because that was always her goal, is to wear a badge. How could, and look, this is a person that says she has some immigration problems. So, why, how is this so bold? There's something there that needs to be clarified. How she can be worried about her immigration status, but at the same time be so bold to think that with a convicted criminal, harassment, what is it? I want to say abuse, domestic disturbance. Yeah, domestic disturbance and harassment, breaking a restraining order, and reporting false information to law enforcement. I mean, how can she wear a badge? Is it because they get that 10-point uh, privilege if you're 100% disabled or if you have a certain amount of disability? I mean, but she never, I just want to make sure that everyone knows this, she never got close to even the opportunity to be a bailiff. And I think that's really, really, she was never even considered. She was never even considered to even pretend to be a bailiff, right? So, yeah, I think that that's really important information. Um, yeah, I don't think that after July 9th, 2020, when Richard's agreement of dismissal came through, that the major general and that lieutenant colonel would, apologize to Richard and give him something for his pain and suffering, and that they would be, it would be their ruination, right? It would be their ruination. And also, um, Richard would get his credibility back for, to be a witness at different trials, at different hearings. So there is a lot of motive there to kill him. There's a lot of motive there. So I wanted to establish that motive. I think that there's so much information, but we've been busy writing letters, more letters today again. There was something else I wanted to say, but I can't remember. It'll come to me. So I'm going to answer questions now. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, Anicia, for coming on, for supporting. Oh, I want to say thank you so much for signing the petition. I believe it's around 213 or 215 signatures right now, which is huge. It is huge. I want to double it. I do want to double it. I'm never satisfied, right? I'm never satisfied because I am so, I don't want to say fearful, but I understand the risk that this soldier has taken to inquire for a congressional in this kind of atmosphere, in this kind of environment. I absolutely know, have an idea of the risk that he has taken to do this and to do this for that little girl that was living in the barracks being prostituted out, for all of the service members that want to go to JAG because they see something, they want to say something, they want to report fraud, waste, and abuse, and JAG needs to answer them, and they haven't. And also in Richard's case, um, just the irregularities are astounding. And I want to tell you, the monies that they've spent to cover this up is incredible. It will knock your socks off. So we're still working on getting that information. And as soon as we have it, we will let you know. We're as transparent as we possibly can be on every front. So that is really important information. Now, I posted up some videos. That's what I wanted to do. I posted up some videos and on Facebook and also on Telegram, and I thought that they were really interesting. Lloyd Austin um, has some problems right now. We're going to be following those developments, and just look out for that he can be voted down. Let's listen to this.
I'm proud to let you know that my amendment using the Holman Rule to fire Secretary Lloyd Austin. I'm proud to let you know that my amendment using the Holman Rule to fire Secretary Lloyd Austin just passed on the House floor. This is the first time in the 118th Congress that we have used the Holman Rule. This is the first one introduced, and as a matter of fact, it's the first time the Holman Rule has been used in years. The Holman Rule is a very important tool that members of Congress can use to fire federal government officials. And Lloyd Austin, the Secretary of Defense of the United States, definitely deserves to be fired. He failed in Afghanistan. Military recruitment is at an all-time low. And he forced 8,000 military troops out of the military because they refused the COVID vaccine. There's a loss in confidence in Lloyd Austin's leadership, and he deserves to be fired. So my amendment to fire him using the Holman Rule, reducing his salary down to $1, and $1 is too much, just passed on the House floor. Share the good news, everyone.
That was amazing. And then, so that's self-explanatory. And then this one.
Mike Waltz, member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. What do you think about that? Using our national parks now to house these migrants?
Yeah, Sandra, the hypocrisy here is rich on multiple levels. I mean, President Biden just dedicated a new national monument, national park out in Arizona, ostensibly to preserve and protect those pristine lands for future generations. And when it comes to any type of new energy exploration, denied, not allowed. Any kind of mining for our economy, denied, not allowed. But suddenly it's okay to put tens of thousands of illegal immigrants on there without appropriate sewage facilities, without appropriate living conditions. Then that's going to be fine. So, I mean, that is rich with.
Okay, so you can watch that in its entirety on Facebook. I posted it, and also on Telegram. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that because I think it's really important. Then I also, before I do, the next video that you will see is Attorney General Ken Paxton. And he was on the Charlie Kirk show, and I posted that up because we're keeping very close track of what Attorney General Ken Paxton is doing, because lots of money was allocated through certain avenues to fund the cover-up of our son's case. And we're working very hard to get that all exposed, and to get Richard's remains, to get the truth about what happened to our son. So that is something that you'll find on Telegram also. And I don't know if I posted that on Facebook. I'll try to do that. Um, so going back to this national parks, you know, our military right now has a big problem. They don't have a mission. They have forgotten their true mission, which is to, and I'm talking about the 44 four-star generals and admirals. Um, you know, the admirals, they were in charge of this emergency intake center at Fort Bliss, and we have 85,000 unaccounted for minors. What were those admirals doing? They can't keep track on land or something? Um, you know, there's a big problem with the criminality when it comes to human trafficking, of course, child sex trafficking, of course, you know, low labor costs. Um, so is that what they're doing, making slavery, you know, messing with that? Um, there is real questions about what the Army, what its mission is. And on Fort Bliss, what is Fort Bliss's mission, right? And they really don't have a mission until recently. And months ago, um, the whole area, oh gosh, McKillingon's Canyon, um, Castner Range. The Castner Range area was turned into a national monument. And now, after 90 years, the Army has given Fort Bliss the mission to oversee Castner Range, to oversee this national monument. What are they supposed to do? That takes like 5, 7 people, right? 5, 7 people, maybe 10 people. Okay, let's give it 10 people. Let's give it a dozen. Okay, so a dozen people. Then Fort Bliss needs to be shut down. I'm sure they can find one little building for a dozen people to take care of Castner Range, right? And, you know, so they don't have a mission until recently. They gave it this, okay, they're going to take care of Castner Range, um, the national monument. And I'm like, okay, that's not going to take many people. I'm repeating myself, I know. Um, but now I hear that this is in Arizona, and I think there's another state, that they are putting migrants on these national monuments. Is that what El Paso wants? Is that what the Americans want? Is the military to oversee a vast amount of people, thousands of people, when at the emergency intake center they couldn't even take care of the minors, they couldn't even take care of the children? There's 85,000 unaccounted for children in the emergency intake center that were overseen by the military. And now they're going to put, I mean, this is the most inhumane. This is putting so many people at risk. And I don't even care if they're legally or illegal. You're putting people at risk. You're going to give Fort Bliss the mission of taking care of thousands of people? Is that what their plan is? That's what went through my mind, and that's why I had to post it. And what does that have to do with Richard? Because Richard put in those CPS complaints, and Leilani, and especially Thomas Kane, he had a connection with CPS. He had a connection with CPS, and so did Anna Ogle have a connection with CPS, and so did Richard. And so this whole emergency intake center, this whole uh, group of people that new crimes were being committed, that even fomented them. In my opinion, and you know, it's so clear because we have so many scars. We have so many scars. Our children have so many scars. Our women have so many scars. Our men have so many scars. We are so scarred by the physical, mental abuse. And we're being economically scarred right now. So it's very clear, it's very obvious that our leadership doesn't know what they're doing, or they are our enemy. Because with leadership like this, who needs enemies? And this is why to see Lloyd Austin be voted out, to be fired without pay, well, $1, which is too much. Because what he did was crimes against humanity. What he did was crimes against humanity. I mean, this is punishable by death. And so I want to end this by saying that Clem Coward, Major General Clem Coward, and Captain Park, and Richard's chain of command, including Lieutenant Colonel Michael Roddick, that spent months conducting a code red on Richard, a continuous, waterless waterboarding, severe retaliation against a whistleblower who, probably while he was in the CID internship, saw something, said something, probably before then, even before then, before he, when he was just an aspiring CID agent, saw something and said something, turned it in, and he was set up to be discredited. It's a smear. And then they used an ongoing case that was no evidence, if anyone checked into it, no evidence at all. They used that for this waterless waterboarding, for this code red, for the continuous severe retaliation with the permanent GOMAR, the GOMAR that they made permanent, and the which it leads to a Chapter 14, which leads to a lot of bullying when it lasts for months, and then, of course, the Fill Grade Article 15. And when the bottom fell out, they had a choice. Either have their Soldier 6 or choose to risk the gallows. Choose to risk the death penalty. And they chose that. They chose to escalate. I really firmly believe that, because where's Richard? And from the testimonies that we're getting, the knocks on the door are coming. Because we have so much evidence that it is driving institutional support. And the institutional support is coming from as far as Samoa, as close as Fort Bliss. When you have soldiers that are willing to be brave and request a congressional inquiry and then pass around the petition to protect, to hedge the soldier, to know that that soldier, even though the leadership, the chain of command, rather risk the gallows than to back up a soldier, than to apologize to a wrongly abused soldier, um, whistleblower, on top of that. Um, we have our service member 6. We have Richard 6. We've been fighting for justice for Richard from the beginning of this. And even though the chain of command that they're up to no good, clearly they're up to no good, rather choose the gallows to risk that than to do the right thing towards their soldier under their command. That is, that's why Lloyd Austin is, I think he's about to lose his job. That's why there needs to be a retrenching. That's why Mealy needs to be arrested. That's why that's why these generals need to be removed from those beautiful uniforms. Remove their stars, because their crimes are so selfish, are so big, are so criminal, that rather than make it right with a retaliated against whistleblower, they would rather murder him, code red him, waterless waterboard him more, whatever, and risk the gallows than to be an army of one. And, that's that's very clear. That's very clear. So, okay. Thank you, everyone. I think that's we have put in a lot of time to get the institutional support. And there have been a lot of FBI informants involved in this, millions of dollars. Okay? I'm just telling you, millions of dollars. You wouldn't believe it. And I think, we're getting institutional support now. And you're going to see it. And you might even see some numbers dropping as far as views, because I think things are happening behind the scenes. Finally. And this is something we asked for from the very beginning. And Team 5 Richard Halliday was reminded of that today, that we asked for this from the very beginning. Institutional support. So thank you so much, everyone. And, we want to find Richard, his remains. We want his remains. And we want accountability for what they did to him. And I think that July 9th, 2020 is a huge, huge turning point in this case, because it really does establish 2 motives. And there's lots of motives, but here's 2 more. So, okay, everyone, thank you so much, and God bless you. And I will be back tomorrow